Thanks for joining us today. So this event is brought to you by Data Talks Club, which is a community of people who love data. We have weekly events. This event is one of such events. You can check more about the events we have in our schedule by clicking on a link in the description. And also when you click, you'll see a link to our Google Calendar. People say they love it. So if you want to subscribe to all our events, check it out. Then if you haven't subscribed yet to our YouTube channel, you should. And actually, just today I saw YouTube analytics and I saw that 55% of people who are watching videos are not subscribed. I think it's time to fix that. So please click on that link and join our Slack community to have great discussions about all data related things. Then finally, if you have any question today during the presentation, there is a pinned link in the live chat. So just click on that link, ask any question you want, and we will cover these questions at the end. So that's the introduction. And Marijn, now the floor is yours.
Allow me to ask the most important question of the day. Can you guys see my screen?
No. Yes.
Yay. Okay, for the record, Alexei, I have no clue how many people are watching. I have no clue what the questions they're asking. You'll have to direct those to me, okay?
I will do that. And right now, 15 people are watching right now.
Oh God, the pressure.
Yeah.
Okay. Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining. Happy days. Today we are talking about doing good in data. We're going to take a little trip back in time, about 5-6 years. I'm not that old yet. About what was data science like back then? What is it like now? What are the differences and what are the main places where you can apply it and how to apply it? Because some of you might have seen this little post on LinkedIn beforehand about how data science really changed over the years. Before 2013, yes, that was the year that the NVIDIA Atlas GPU was used, unleashed for the first time to unleash deep learning. Before that time, data science didn't exist. It was methods, statistics. I studied it all, but it was so very distinctly not sexy. I repeat, it was not sexy at all. The data science only really as a term arrived in 2014, 15, after the deep learning boom, the big data boom that we had. Now suddenly everyone's calling stuff AI. But to me, we're still doing the same thing as in day one. We're using data to improve people's lives. Now, as mentioned, I'm Markus. I'm a senior data scientist at Capgemini in the Netherlands. They call me AI lead whenever I stand on a stage and talk like this, but that's their mistake, not mine. I started out in this field back in 2014 when Ebola was a thing. Does anyone remember Ebola? World's biggest pandemic at that point in time, West Africa. And I was doing internships back then at Charter 555, which is a major Dutch NGO to help collect money to send emergency aid to West Africa. And back then I was doing stupid data stuff, really, BI modeling. Then suddenly, snap, the pandemic happened, and I was routing data from 3-4 different APIs into dashboards and maps to show how it was spreading. And using that stuff, we were collecting 15.6 million euros of emergency aid money. And that was the point in my life that I realized that the stupid stuff I do with data, the stupid stuff I do on a computer, can help people's lives. That's basically all I want to do and all I have been doing since. I modeled crime for my hometown of Rotterdam. And that got me involved in more worldwide NGO projects, for example, Farm, which I'll talk about later, where we aid smallholder farmers worldwide. And nowadays I stand on stages and post memes about it. But a big thing nowadays is that data and AI are so prevalent in our media, especially media consumed by my mom and by my dad, and they ask me questions like, what was going on with Amazon? They had an AI that was recruiting people, but it only recruited white males, and that was bad. And I have to explain, yeah, they trained trained that stuff on human recruitment data. And then they fired the AI and went back to human recruitment data. So where does the bias come from? Is that from the AI or from the humans that are still doing this to this day? Oh, so it's not the AI. No, mom, it's not the AI. Not the AI. Okay, okay. But what about the chatbot that got state citizenships rights? Well, that was still just a scripted bot set to say standard things, nothing else. But what about Apple Pay 2019-20 when females, yeah, when females couldn't get as much credit as males on Apple's new credit card service because they had an algorithm that did not see gender. For the record, I'm a social scientist. Sociology, criminology, a lot of statistics. This is why I talk way too much about social issues in combination with data. And in 2019, Apple indeed launched its credit service using an algorithm that did not see gender. What do you mean? Well, they didn't put gender in the training data that tells you how much money you can borrow, what your credit score is going to be. It was blind. Correlation is a bitch. And post 30, females on average have less work experience because you take time off for kids and stuff. And on average have different choices in education field from males. And all those correlations stacked up. And in the end, Apple was giving different credit scores to females without even noticing because they couldn't check because the data privacy officer told them they couldn't get the gender data. And that's a very dangerous thing in the current GDPR world we live in, where not having access to sensitive data, private data, also means you can't check for bias and discrimination in that very model. Like, sure, you can't access the gender or the ethnicity or the orientation of the subjects for very valid reasons, but that also means you can't tell your model is discriminating or not. This is stuff that I get to talk about, very much fun. Then on the other side of the globe, we have China, who is doing very advanced image recognition stuff on its own populace. And we shame it, and simultaneously, my Dutch government can't even automate a paper process. So who's the crazy one here now? Anyway, and then we have at European levels, giant new AI legislation. But to anyone in the crowd, if you read what the EU implemented in terms of AI legislation, it says any statistically influenced, what was it? Basically, any type of statistical model counts as AI according to the EU. Anyone here who's ever done a regression analysis, even if it's in SPSS, you are an AI expert according to the European Union. Congrats. Now, that said, what is all this AI we scream about nowadays? To me, it's whatever machines haven't done yet. That's what Larry Tesler said in 79, and that's still the only definition we can use to this day. To make matters even worse, this means that as soon as we achieve something new, be it driving a car or creating a song or detecting new types of illnesses using AI and machine learning, it's not AI anymore because we can explain it. It's cool and it's magic until we actually do it. This makes Google the most successful AI company in the world. Why? Because what was the core of AI research back in the 80s and 90s, search engines and expert systems, got its own word. We don't say we search engine it. We say we Google it. As soon as something becomes its own word, that's when it's really successful. And then we're looking at Google and Netflix, really. Now, I'd like to take you through a few examples of the work we do nowadays in the field. Everything from predicting burnouts to outlier detection, to refugee research, to document processing, to analyzing fish, to chatbots. But everyone hates chatbots, so let's not talk about chatbots that much. And I know many of you in the crowd might be new to the field. And if you're looking at the job applications for the average data scientist, they might look like this. They ask for 5-6 years of experience in tools that have existed for 2 years or less. But once you get into the job, you actually find out that it's not even that complicated. And the ridiculous demands in the field are really just a side effect of the recruiters not knowing what to ask for at all. But once you get a job, and you will, I swear, I'll help, connect with me on LinkedIn, you might get the situation that you quit. People quit a lot. In the field of data science, the average employee only spends 2 years at an individual company, then they move. So attrition has become a huge issue and a huge driver for companies nowadays. Sure, it was slowed down by COVID just a bit, but that just gave them some extra time to implement models, because the vast majority of the people leaving, the vast majority of your attrition problem is highly predictable. And you could see it coming. Now, for any manager, any HR, this is highly interesting. But I'm not pitching a random forest here. I'm not pitching an XGBoost model or grabbing a specific type of data. The only thing I'm pitching here is the solution to their problem. Because I learned that's the only thing you can talk about, really, with business. Let me show you an example, because I have a live demo somewhere here. Oh, yeah, here we go. So imagine you work in HR. I know, horrible, but for a moment, imagine you work in HR. You open your dashboard. You have 10 people, every dot on the screen over here. This is our Shiny, by the way. Every dot here is an individual. Horizontal axis, leave probability. Vertical axis, company impact, thus the worth to the company. And you have to plan coffee with these people, because you're the HR, you're their manager. You have to talk with them. So you could plan a coffee meeting with Don Murray over here. This is all anonymized fake data, by the way. The model is real. The implementation was real, but I can't show it, so I'm using fake data. Nasir over here, but oh, Robin over here. Robin is in the danger zone, and over here, John. Oh, John McCoy. John McCoy is at high risk of leaving. So if I have to talk to somebody first, it has to be John McCoy. So this is profiling what we're doing right here, because we're just slapping a number onto a guy and judging him for it. But if I then click onto the second screen and select John McCoy over here, I get a root cause analysis, line models, everyone, that explains to me because of which factors in my model this individual is at risk of leaving, or at risk of being unhappy, at risk of burnout. Burnout is a very real thing nowadays. And here I see it's not due to overtime, which is normally one of the highest level factors for burnout or dissatisfied with work. John McCoy is not at all dissatisfied with his overtime, but it's due to his technical degree, his low environmental satisfaction, and his job level, and the fact that he hasn't had a promotion in a while, that he's probably unsatisfied. Now, previously, policy in HR would indicate that, well, we think it's because of overtime, so let's have an overtime talk with every damn employee we have, which is a blanket solution that will only solve part of your problem. In this case, you can zoom in on the problem at an individual level, if you want to call it a problem, of course, and engage with John, because if I click Robin here, Robin has a very high job satisfaction, but also very high overtime, meaning Robin requires a completely different solution than John. Now, all of this is standard HR data, meaning time, the time at the company, the type of education, their level, their pay grade. One of the biggest predictors is the last time since you got a pay raise. And also one of the biggest predictors was who's your manager. And that actually got me into trouble, because I was presenting this to management and I was basically showing which one of them fucked up. Which was fun. Very much fun. Our field of data is fun because you get to uncover stuff and uncover maggots that you did not expect to uncover, and neither did they. Very much fun. Now, I have a question for you, because currently this is all profiling stuff and it's very scared, and we have all the discussions about, is it allowed? But I wonder, and I'm curious about what you guys think about this. In the future, Are you allowed not to? You are HR, you have to deal with the well-being of your employees. And if, based on data that everyone has and everyone can see coming, you can clearly flag who's doing the burnout thing ahead of time, do you have a moral responsibility to do something about it? I'm so curious where this will go in the next 10 to 15 years. Because currently we say, no, you can't do it. But then in the future, we'll probably say you can't not do it because you have a responsibility. Only time will tell. Now, on to the next example. You guys probably worked with computer vision in the past to some extent. It's fun stuff. You can use it to detect who's calling while driving. This is a thing we're doing big time in the Netherlands. You can detect what car is passing by, or you can use it to automatically process documents, which is a huge thing because many organizations still have a ton of paperwork. But you can also use it to analyze fish. Yes, fish. A friend of mine, Björn from Norway, of course his name is Björn, did this for a living for a while, which is run image recognition models on fish in fish tanks. So you have a giant fjord, you hang the camera in there, and it looks at the fish. It was a fish farm, so it looks basically at your harvest, your future harvest with fins, and it detects unique fish, identifies them based on iris scan, and then checks each and every fish for wounds and lice. Okay, sure, cool, image recognition to see if your fish is healthy or not. But if you scale that and get a few hours of data, of imagery on okay, I saw fish 246 and that was fine, but 247 had wounds. You can run analysis on the average health of all your fish, whether or not you should feed them more, if they're too crowded, if they need antibiotics, that kind of stuff. So it's not even the model itself, which I think is the coolest thing ever, because I can't explain to my mom what I do, but that guy can just say, I model fish, and it's the coolest thing ever. But it's input for the next guy to analyze the harvest. That said, on to the next one, which is a personal pet project of mine. I hope you can hear this. Peter, get me coffee. Okay. This is how I make coffee at home, through voice control. Yeah, I've been in lockdown too, same as you. This is what lockdown does to a man. I got too tired of walking back and forth to the kitchen to make coffee, so I built this. So what's happening on the back end over here? Oh, I soldered some wires in my coffee machine, hooked them up to a relay, which is connected to a node MCU, which has Wi-Fi. So this thing crosses wires digitally, remotely, and thereby stimulates the button that makes the coffee machine think, oh, somebody's pushing my button, let's make coffee. The node MCU I hooked up to a Raspberry Pi over Wi-Fi, which I connected to my Alexa system, so I can literally scream, get me coffee, but if I do that right now, the coffee will run over the floor, so I will not do that. And I'm also monitoring the power use of the coffee machine and writing that away to a database so I can track my coffee consumption per day, because you get a power spike whenever I make coffee. So I can model how badly addicted I am, because let's be honest, coffee is the only legalized psychoactive drug that we consume for breakfast in front of our children. And once again, we're tracking data, catching data, and doing stuff with it. Now, the final example I want to give here is one of my favorite projects and one of the projects I'm most proud of, which is Project Farm, which is short for Financial and Agricultural Recommendation Models. Did you guys know that over 70% of the food in the world is produced not by super farms, tractors, and drones, and giant-ass equipment, but by smallholder farmers. The majority of the world's food, the majority of the world's population is fed by smallholder farmers with 2-3 hectares of land. They don't produce giant amounts of tomatoes. They mainly farm to feed their kids, their family, and whatever is left is sold to then send the kids to school. Now, since we have a production paradox in the world right now, because the world population is only increasing, but our means to produce food are not increasing. They're the same or even decreasing. We have dysfunctional markets, increased pressure on land, soil fertility goes down, and we have logistical systems that tend to clog up every once in a while when a ship crashes, you know? So if we set out with this project, me and some friends, to aid these smallholder farmers, to aid food production of the world, you can't do that by only helping the super farmers. We have to focus on the smallholder farmers in developing nations that feed the majority of our world. Now, me and my friends were a lot of things. We're data scientists, engineers, architects, lots of buzzwords, but we are not farmers. Like, you wouldn't want to see my plants, seriously. I had to hook them up with sensors just to keep them from dying. So we partnered with NGOs that do know farming, like Agrix in Kenya, and now change initiatives in India. So we're working on a version for India too, whereby we gather data, so geodata, market data, satellite, climate, rainfall data, and combine that with local stuff to give the farmer an assessment of what their yield will be end of season based on image recognition of soil pictures for soil fertility classification, which we combine with sales in the region, rainfall, average climate, average yield of the year before, to give the farmer a prediction of what their yield is going to be this year. We ran neural nets, we ran random forests, we ran regression models even, all just to compare performance, because the end goal was not to build the coolest model. The end goal was to build something that can help smallholder farmers like Mary. Mary was the most prominent name in our data set, so we called the farmers Mary. Majority of the farmers were actually female. That was very interesting to see. And I can show you a movie about that, but I'd rather just show you the new platform. This is not Kenya, this is West Bengal. We're working on this to aid farmers now in India as well. So the previous version was Kenya, where they can log in, get yield prediction models, some soil classification, but also analysis of repayment, because the NGO that funds these farmers, and we provide the NGO with a better information position, will need to be repaid to some extent, and this allows them to better assess the investment risk as well, thereby aiding both the individual farmer and the party supporting the farmers. Now, oh, come on. 1 second, we are experiencing some technical difficulties. Oh no, I clicked on the picture. So at the end of the day, to me, it's all about data. And this is an obvious thing, because this is the Data Talks Club. So I mean, what the heck, man, were you talking about? But to me, the problems I deal with in my projects, in research in the world, be they burnouts, be they refugee flows throughout Europe, be they aiding small farmers or analyzing fish, it's all about how you process your data and what the end goal is that you meet. Because I love talking for hours and hours about how the hell we optimize our model, but that is not what the rest of the world is interested in. And to me, that was the hardest thing for a long, long time. Like, they don't specifically care for the satellite imagery or the real-time data or the deep learning models or the data we got from the ground. All they wanted was to help farmers like Mary. And that's all we wanted to do too. In the same way, I don't care about my right tool selection, the real-time dashboard, what type of roast grind. I just want a damn cup of coffee. And I learned through trial and error that this is how we need to talk to the rest of the world as well. We are the problem solvers of the world because we have a single asset that the rest don't. We got data. And in the same way, quality training data, what cloud solution you're using, yeah, sure. Azure, AWS will want to talk about that. I'm only interested in photoshopping Nicolas Cage's face onto every movie I see. And I'll be damned what cloud environment I'm running it in, because we are the problem solvers. And we grab those pieces of the puzzle because we know their satellite data. We know what packages to use. We know there's hamburger prices, which I use to predict what happens to refugee flows. Yes, hamburger prices. And then we have this huge buzzword behemoth that's coming our way, especially on LinkedIn, about AI, about machine learning, big data, cloud and security. But let's be honest, it is all about data in the end. What else do you run your machine learning on? What does it aggregates to big data? Also, all the automation projects I've seen over the last few years were all digital. What is cloud other than a place to store and process your data? What security risk wasn't a data leak over the last 5 years? And what is blockchain? You gotta help me. What is blockchain if not a way to store your data in a decentralized, trustworthy way? It was, according to Satoshi, what's his name? Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. Most successful projects were not the biggest deep learning projects, to be honest, though we did use some. The yield prediction model I showed for Kenya was actually just a regression model because it was accurate enough to suit our purposes, to suit for our goal of aiding farmers. And all the data in AI was just a tool to achieve that goal. Similarly, and then I'm gonna stop talking. So say you're selling beer. I can talk about beer here, right? I did a lecture in Norway. They didn't like me talking about beer and alcohol, but I'm on YouTube now, so it's okay. Say you're selling beer. Yeah, at a supermarket. You have descriptive statistics about, how much beer did we sell yesterday. But what you actually would want to know is, why did you sell so much beer yesterday? Was it due to the weather? Due to football being on TV? Soccer for the uninitiated? Or was it because our beer was actually in the bonus? And it's only after that when you can start doing predictive stuff. Well, we know the weather is going to be nice, so we'll probably sell more beer. Or even prescriptive. Well, the weather is going to be nice and Feyenoord is playing, so that's when we need to put beer in the bonus. And the interesting part, everyone, is that we know all those organizations want the stuff at the top, but they're stuck at the bottom and they want to skip steps. But you can only do proper predictions for the future if you understand the past. And that's the crazy thing where me, as a social scientist, I was suddenly stuck doing all this kind of stuff just because I know how a regression model works. And so can you. Now, and then finally, how the hell do you get to that market? Well, that's quite simple. The business asks for AI and data science and blockchain. The first thing you do is step back and find a problem. Are they losing money? Are they losing people? Are they losing cargo? Are they bad at risk assessments? Whatever. You solve their problem using the data we do. And then they can go brag about having done AI on LinkedIn. The only way to do AI is to stop talking about it ASAP. And then finally, what is data science in the first place? Because I've been yelling it for the past half an hour or so. Is it the study of data? Is it the sexiest job of the 21st century? Hell yeah. Or is it just applying scientific methods to data problems? That's where it gets fun, y'all. Because I think the vast majority of the crowd here has a scientific background to some extent. You studied something, be it economics, psychology, computer science, AI, physics. The fun thing is I have all those in my team nowadays, and it makes for amazing lunch conversations, I tell you. It is a combination of skills. It's mathematics, it's computer science, and it's the domain in which you apply it. And to me, and to many fellow students, you know a domain, be it economics again, or be it human behavior, be it marketing, I don't know. And we all get a measure of statistics in class nowadays. But you got to get better at programming. That takes practice, practice, practice. I was teaching this at my old university half a year ago. So those students, they're all looking at the labor market, going like, "Woe is me! What the hell am I going to do once I have to find a job?" Well, the fun thing about data science is that it's so diverse. The main challenging thing is also that it's so diverse, because you can never be a master of everything. And one data scientist is not a data science team, because one data scientist is good at one of these three things, learned the second one, and is just winging the third. That's me, that's you, that's everyone in the room, but that's why we can learn from each other, and that's why I love this field so much. And it sounds really cool, but in practice, sometimes it looks like this. But it's still very much. Thank you for letting me ramble. I'll be taking your questions now.
So I see that you are also on Windows, right? Yeah, thanks for the presentation. So good timing. So that's amazing. So you asked for how long to make a presentation. So I told you 30 minutes, and I think it was 30 minutes.
More or less. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I have a question. So you talked about many different projects that you got involved. So if somebody who's listening for us right now, watched your presentation, they also want to get involved. I guess like if they want to automate their coffee machine, right? They don't need, they can just go ahead and do this. But how to get involved with all these NGOs that you worked with? Let's say if somebody wants to help farmers in India or people in Africa, so how can they do that?
Good question. Good question. It depends on the country you're from, because I have no clue what country you're from. Over here, I started doing internships. So I was still young. I was still a student back then. I'm still young. But I knew a friend of a friend of a friend, and also I just cold called a few times, because the not-for-profit sector is more than eager to welcome anyone's help who offers it, be it during times of great distress like Ebola, or just in between. They're always running on fumes, because they can only use 6.7% of the money they collect for actual overhead stuff, as opposed to sending it directly to the end user, so to say. Meaning they were still running Windows XP back when I was there, and it was already long since depreciated by then. Meaning just ask, just mail, just call. No, I didn't call you. And home projects are a great addition for that as well. Like I showed my coffee machine in the same way I do stuff with plants, but then later on, I'm in a big meeting with important managers, and they go like, yeah, we need to do IoT, and they don't believe anyone in the room has any experience. And I just grab my phone and show them. I just show them the damn dashboards that I used to control my entire house. Look here, there's the temperature, all the lights, the colors of the lights, if the stereo is on, my coffee machine, the vacuum robot, the other coffee machine that's broken. Yes, it happens. And the drop downs for my screens.
That was it.
And if anyone is being mugged nearby, because I'm tracking the police radio. So if anything is on fire, I can actually go watch. It's great. So that's just a hobby project, but it taught me so much about using a Raspberry Pi, because I'm not a hardware guy by education. But I have a hobby project, and that's valuable work experience that you can just put in your portfolio, because I whip it out and I show it, and suddenly we're doing that as a project, not because I am an expert with 5 years of experience, but because I'm still the most experienced person in the room. And that's also a big thing. Don't be the most experienced person, period, because you will never be. But you can still strive to be the smartest guy in the room on a specific topic. But don't be the smartest guy in the room at every topic, because then there's nobody in the room you can learn from. And that's, again, why so many people leave their jobs after 2 years.
Can you tell us a bit more about what you do with plants? You said you also have a system for watering them or for not letting them die. What is it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's offline. Like the dashboard is currently offline, but I added sensors to all my plants. Wait, do I have? Can I show you? No, I can't. I would. 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, so we're doing practical now. See this white thingy over here in my plant?
Yes.
That's only like $10 or something on. It measures the humidity as well as the sunlight and the temperature and the soil fertility of the plant's soil. And every minute or so, it sends a Bluetooth signal open, and my Raspberry Pi catches it, telling the world, okay, there's this much moisture in the soil, and it's this fertile, or there's this many nutrients in there, because you run a very slight power thing through that to measure it. And I just built scripts that tell my Alexa to scream at me if my plants are dying because they have too little water or nutrients. And then I refuel them. And ever since, my plants have been doing so much better. And by better, I mean they're not dying as much anymore.
Yeah, that plant that you just showed, I think it's very, like, it's hard to kill it, right? So you really have to.
Yeah, that's my other secret. I just buy plants that are very strong, right? In general. I mean, this one is also doing pretty okay, if I may.
Okay. So this thing you just bought, and then you configured your Raspberry Pi to catch signals from that, and then you have a script.
Yeah, basically, it's everything is wired to an app nowadays, so you can install an app and connect that and have it on your phone. But I was like, it's too much of a bother to check an app every damn day. So I checked what type of signal it connects to, and that's just Bluetooth, and it's one direction, like the band, meaning the phone doesn't actually connect to the sensor. The sensor just broadcasts on an open channel every day or so. I live next to elderly people, so they probably won't start hijacking my plant signals. And I just told my Raspberry Pi to catch those signals from that specific MAC address and store it at, that's that plant, that one's my geraniums. And now I actually have about a year of data, because I store that, write that away on a database, on how good, bad my plants are doing.
That's amazing.
And then you're gonna get your professor or your manager or your whatever to ask you about, yeah, but monitoring this, blah blah. Can you do that with the dashboard? And you just show my plants.
Yeah, that's really cool. How did you get this fish project? You work on that project because that Björn was your friend?
Oh, that was the only one that wasn't mine. That was Björn's,
okay.
definitely, but it was too cool not to show.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm just curious, like, how people find these kind of projects. So somebody needs help with fish or with, I don't know, with the cows that they have. And then there is an NGO probably that helps them. So you said you just cold call them, right? But how do you find, like, do you
In
go
the
to
NGO
LinkedIn?
cases, yeah, yes, I did. Because the interesting thing is there is a huge latent demand for people who can help companies, organizations, governments, banks with these kinds of issues, but they're usually latent in the sense that they're not aware of their need yet. And to me, that is also an important part of, unfortunately, data science, being able to be that guy or lady to tell and explain what new stuff you can do. Because the majority of the organizations you will deal with after you finish studying, because while you're studying, you're surrounded by smart people who all go like, oh yeah, machine learning is a great idea. And then you're stuck with a manager who goes like, machine what? And you're not going to convince them by explaining how much you improved the R square. You are going to convince them by showing, hey, look, this way we can better assess this risk, or better tell where people are going to get stabbed or not, or what we can do about it. And then suddenly I had to rewind all my stuff because I was way too focused on running all the XGBoost models to get accuracy up high. Whereas a lot of people and a lot of organizations don't care that much about fine-tuning the accuracy. They want the explainability. That's what I meant with my arrow model. You can make a much bigger difference in those organizations by simply pointing at the important factors that they were unaware of, whether it's the sunshine for beer sales, okay, that's an obvious one, or which manager is the dick, thereby causing your attrition to spike, which is a huge thing. And the joy of getting those people to go back to you with like, yeah, but I think it's differently. And you can say, yeah, but I have data. That is secretly what I live for. I just want to do that.
How much experience do you need to actually to find an NGO and call them to say, because as you said, they have no clue. But like if they don't know what machine learning is, and you just I don't know, graduated from university.
You're not going to tell them anything about machine learning, just like we did. We just had a talk about what do you do, what's the biggest problem, and that's the yield assessment. And we fill in the technological dots. That is our job. Again, the Coleman's boat model, they yell they want help, or they run their business and you offer their help. As soon as you can, you need to narrow that down to a problem they have that you can quantify and have data on. Then you can find a solution to their problem. They won't be able to formulate your assignment. You have to do that yourself, is what I learned, making many mistakes in the process. Don't make promises on accuracy ahead of time. Guys, just don't.
Okay, that's a good advice. We have a question. Would you recommend a master's in data science for a software engineer to be able to communicate with their data scientist coworkers?
Oh, yes, I would. But the context is important here. If you're doing the master's to further your own development and widen your own skill range, go for it, because this labor market does not care about you doing something better than the rest. The labor market cares about what you do differently from the rest. So if you have a unique combination of skills, that is so much more important than having a skill that other people already have. So if you're going to do that for yourself, not to be able to talk to the data scientist better, because screw the data scientist, you're doing this for you.
So if somebody wants to talk to improve their communication skills with data scientists, what should they do?
Well, talk to them. Practice makes perfect. I'm horrible at communicating. Ask my exes. But I learned to communicate by practicing and trying it again and again and again until I sucked less at it, which took a lot of time and effort because I'm 31 now, but it's doable. And we, especially people from a scientific background, we get so incredibly stuck on thinking and overanalyzing the how-to before we do. And in doing so, we don't actually start, rather than just starting and seeing where it ends. Because you're not getting graded for this. You're not in science anymore, which is a good and a bad thing, because you don't have to stick to the scientific method that strictly. And also, a lot of the projects I've done, the side catches to those projects, like I'm doing data, I'm working on the data quality, and on accident I stumble upon things. Sometimes that is much more worth than the main product. Like I was analyzing durations of procedures, and I was predicting those. But as a side effect, I found that people were making miscalculations in there, which meant all the BI of the past 5 years had been wrong, because procedures didn't take that long at all, because they miscalculated and there were negative values in there. Just fixing that meant that the company wouldn't get sued in the future for misreporting, potentially saving millions. In comparison, my little cutesy data science project was just cutesy, but I wouldn't have found that stuff, the stuff you find along the way, had I spent another 2-3 months going like, yeah, but I need to do this perfect. And no, you don't need to do it perfect. You just need to start doing it. And the same goes for talking to your data scientists.
And
asking what media they consume. That also helps.
Yeah, one thought that I had was if you think that you need a master's degree to talk to your data scientist, maybe the problem is not with you, but with the data scientists.
That too. Like in my time, oh damn, I'm saying that. In my time, there was no such thing as a master's in data science, because again, the Doja meme, masters in data science have only been there for 3-4 years. I did a master's in policy analysis and big data, it was called. Yeah, but my teacher was a huge metal fan and borrowed me his R script for mining Twitter, and that's basically how I started out.
Yeah, by the way, speaking of metal, actually, we talked at the beginning about this metal bands per capita. So I looked it up. So the first one is Finland, then Iceland, and then Sweden. I'm surprised there's no Norway.
This is per capita, right?
Yes, per capita.
Yeah, then Finland is way ahead. Iceland is way ahead of the rest.
Yeah. Okay. So there is a comment that they really loved the talk, and how can they connect with you? LinkedIn, or there is a better way?
I would post my LinkedIn in the comments, but I can't currently see the comments, and I'm kind of ashamed of that. But yes, please do just Google Marijn Markus. You can find me on LinkedIn for sure.
Yeah, but there are not so many people with the same first and last name on LinkedIn, aren't there? Like if they just look you up, they will probably find you.
Like Alexei, if I put it in the chat over here, can you copy paste it? Because please connect with me, because I hate not being able to see your questions right now. I feel I'm really missing out.
Yeah, there are not so many questions, just great advice. That was hilarious, fabulous projects. I like your humor and enthusiasm, and I agree with all that 100%.
Oh, please don't agree with everything, because that means we ain't got nothing to discuss and argue about. Because arguing about stuff is also a huge and important part of this field. The whole question everything, because I'm questioning the entire organization. Go like, they're not leaving because of bad pay. They're leaving because of you. But in the same way, they and we should question each other's methods, because when I'm the only data scientist at a project, that is scary. Because if I mess up, there's nobody double checking me. And that's why I repeat, one data scientist is not a data science team. You see way too many startups, but also organizations just get one data scientist and expect you just give him data and put him in a room for half a year, then magic happens. That's not how it works. That's often where the disillusionment sets in.
There is a request. I don't know if you like it or not, but PIO, that's the nickname, asks if they can see your cat or not.
Well, that's a very private question, but I'll try. You should ask her. Larry, say hi to the world. Don't worry, you're getting food soon enough.
She doesn't like it.
Nah, she's not in the mood. She's a little diva. Yeah, okay.
She's very nice.
Like, that's Clary, my 4-footed life partner.
Do you have any gadgets that you came up with to maybe help look after your cat?
Like she's pretty much the only non-digital thing in my house at this point. Then I plan to keep it that way. She's purely analog.
Okay. No, I mean like let's say she's running out of water or food, and then you press a button or tell Alexa, "Hey Alexa."
Yeah, I worked on that, but that doesn't work because she's an expensive diva cat, like most cats are, and requires mashed food because she lost her teeth somewhere along the way due to medical reasons. So I have to mash all the food for her and then add water, otherwise she can't eat it because she's an elderly lady grandma cat. So if it were just chunks of solid food, that could totally work, but not in this case.
Okay, so I don't see any questions, so please ask a question if you want. Maybe you have any last words before we finish?
Like and subscribe and add me on LinkedIn. Let's be in touch. And I'm curious to hear what parts of the world you're from and where you think you can help out. Every country has a Red Cross that loves to get help, especially for free because they don't have much in the way of money. And especially since COVID started, there have been so many pro bono online initiatives that people have been working on. I was going to fly to Ghana to teach students there for a week. Couldn't do it because lockdown. So I spent 2 hours with the worst Skype connection ever teaching them digitally. And I just so happened to know the people who arranged that. But there's so many initiatives like that, even on LinkedIn or platforms like Meetup. It differs per country. And my English is okay, but my French and German, you don't want that. So Google is actually your best friend.
Red Cross, right? You said probably they have offices in every country.
They do.
Yeah,
and they need you.
Okay.
And volunteering is also work experience for all the students out there, as are the projects you did at university. Like the Twitter scraper I built I got a 9 for that. That was a really cool thing. But then I had a client 1 year later asking, okay, social media analysis, how are we going to do this? And I'm like, I did this thing once, but that counts as valid experience because you did it once before. And what's worse, that teacher was much more strict in the quality I delivered than this guy was. So don't undersell yourself.
Yeah, that's very true. Actually, at university, I worked with Wikipedia dump. And then on my first job as a data scientist, like 1 or 2 months after I joined, the project I needed to work was processing Wikipedia dump. And all of a sudden, I have all the code I needed. So I just
there you go.
Yeah,
like we look at the single job applications. They look like Godzilla, yes. But don't forget that you starred in a ton of movies over the last years. Yeah, that metaphor was going somewhere. I don't know.
I was waiting like if it's going to finish or not. Okay.
Be your own kind of monster.
Yeah, right. Okay. I guess that's it. So yeah, there are a few comments like there is so much potential for small farmers in Greece, where I'm from. Definitely interested in that. So
Greece, cool.
Yeah.
Send me a message. Malaka.
What does it mean?
I think it's a swear word.
I hope YouTube doesn't ban.
Let's find out.
Yeah, let's find out. Okay, Marijn, thanks a lot. Yeah, that was a very fun presentation. I like talking to you. Thanks everyone for joining us as well and for asking questions. And yeah, so the best way to connect with you is LinkedIn. So now everyone knows that. And have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Keep doing data.